Hey guys, SickMotion here with the patch 7.11 notes. Last patch I don't have a video for, as I explained and most people would know about that were looking for it. The video ended up breaking right at the end of recording it, and I didn't really have time. I was kind of in a rush when I got to the end of it to record it again right then, and it never ended up getting done again. It was very sad that the video just kind of broke like that, because it was done, but I mean, if the video doesn't work, then it didn't work. Also, my mic might sound a little bit different. My other mic kind of had an RIP moment, so I'm using a temporary mic right now while I get that sorted out and hopefully get another one set up of the other one. I've heard the quality of this one isn't as good, or people don't like it as much. Bear with me here. I'll hopefully have another one soon enough, but not in time to do this. Also, I didn't stream last night, so I didn't actually realize there was a patch until right before I started. Well, I streamed last night. The night before that, when the patch actually happened, I didn't stream, so I didn't realize that there was a patch until right before I got onto the stream last night. Read over these patch notes relatively quick. There's quite a few big changes to some champions, Kindred, Rek'Sai, and Malzahar, namely. I'll go over the changes a little bit. It'll kind of just be like a broad, there's a lot more, and like you might want to look into it a little bit more, then I'll go over it. I don't have really any experience with the Kindred or the Malzahar changes. I did play the Rek'Sai a little bit on the PBE right when the changes were made, so I don't know how much of this stuff stayed the same from what I tried. I mean, it says it right here, but I don't know what the numbers and stuff when I tried it were, and it was PBE, so it's hard to judge. Basically, Rek'Sai is looking more at actually kind of choosing if you want to go damage or if you want to go tanky, rather than just getting like quite a bit of base damage just by building straight tankiness. A lot of AD ratios have been buffed with base damages going down. A lot of AD ratios have been turned into bonus AD rather than AD. I think, if I remember correctly, the ult was changed completely to actually have dueling potential rather than just a farm alarm. Overall, I like the Rek'Sai, the new feel for it. Felt really, really good. It kind of, I mean, Nocturne's ult's longer, and the effect of it is, the darkness can actually have like a lot of impact. You can't teleport and stuff, you can't see what's going on, you don't know where he went, but the damage that his ult does, as well as the cooldown on it, kind of makes Rek'Sai's ult look really better. I mean, Nocturne's ult's pretty long as well, and you don't have to set it up first like Rek'Sai's, but a lot of Nocturnes end up just ulting in the middle of a fight just for damage. Rek'Sai's passive, your Fury generation is way higher. It's 25 for all attacks and unburrowed abilities, and your health regen on it's way lower. It regens faster. It's a little bit less, but it's a lot easier to build it, so it's more about, rather than taking a long time to stack it up, then regenerating more health over a longer period of time, you stack it up really, really quickly, and then you kind of dip in and out, and then get healing and regen faster, but smaller amounts for the full bar. The Q, lower base damage, like I said here, double bonus AD ratio. The burrowed Q, the missile, now has a 0.4 bonus attack damage ratio rather than an AP ratio, and it also does physical damage now rather than magic. It also marks your target, which will allow you to use the ult, which I'll kind of go over really quick here. We're almost there. The knock-up on the Unburrow only knocks up the target that you attack, but will knock back, so still kind of like displacement effect anybody near them, but only like truly knock up the one target. And now the main target is a 1 second knock up all the time rather than half a second to 1 second depending on the proximity to them, since you can only knock up the one target. And then 250 range knockback for all the people who get knocked back. That knock-up immunity only gets applied to the person who was the primary target. If you just get knocked back, you don't have knock-up immunity. So you can keep getting kind of tossed around by people around you getting knocked up eventually. The immunity duration is flat now rather than scaling down, and can interact with plants while burrowed now. The bite no longer scales up based on how much fury you have, but once you have full fury, it'll still do double damage as true damage. So it's either double as true or just the damage that it would normally do. There's nothing in between. It has a bonus attack damage ratio rather than a total attack damage ratio, which is base damage and then the bonus. So building AD will give you more benefit on that. And then that ends up being a 0.85 bonus attack damage times 2 true damage plus that 90 base when it's max level. The tunnels, the cooldown to create a tunnel is down at later levels, and the re-entry tunnel, or the re-entry of the tunnel, is down a lot. It's instead of being 6 seconds when it's maxed to re-enter a tunnel, it is now 2 at max level before CDR. So once there's tunnels down, you can actually use them quite frequently in a short period of time, which I think will add to a really cool kind of duelist playstyle. And then the new ult, like I said, you don't ult to your tunnels anymore. You passively mark targets that you damage as prey for 5 seconds. So any of your damaging abilities, the most reliable one when they're kind of far away is going to be your missile that you shoot, obviously. When you use it, you'll you'll target someone that you've marked, burrowing after a cast time, and then emerging underground, leaping at the target. Basically, you turn into Land Shark, you go underground, and then you jump at them. You're unstoppable during both casts of it, the initial cast and then the jump out. And it has a huge base damage, 100, 250, 400, plus a 1.6 bonus attack damage, plus it does execute damage, percentage of their missing health. So at level 3, it will be 400 base damage plus 1.6 bonus attack damage ratio, plus 30% of their missing health on a 60-second cooldown without any CDR. It's really strong. It does a lot of damage. I think it's going to be toned down, to be completely honest. The playstyle of it when I played it on the PBE as well was very fun. It was a lot of fun. Land Shark is a lot more fun than Farm Alarm. So that's the one that I have more experience with, that I went over a little bit more in depth, still not the most. I'm going to kind of skim over these, very minimal. Kindred's passive no longer makes her auto attacks do current health damage based on your stacks, but now you will gain 75 range at 4 stacks and then 25 range every 4 stacks afterwards. And then they also, all the abilities that she has, her Q, her W, and her E, all get upgraded based on your stacks. Here it's 4 stacks. Every 4 stacks you get the range, but on here it will give you a certain amount per stack. Her Q, bonus attack speed, is increased by 5% per stack, no longer increases damage. W, current health damage, increased by an additional 0.5 per stack. And her E, missing health damage, increased by an additional 0.5 per stack. None of that makes too much sense until you read how all the abilities were changed here. The Q now grants bonus attack speed, plus more attack speed based on your marks. The marks no longer increase the damage, so the total attack damage on it also went to bonus attack damage. And the dash speed's up a little bit. And then I'm not going to go over the W and the E because it's more in depth. Basically, your E, okay, we'll go over it a little bit. Your E does 8% of the target's missing health plus an additional 0.5 per mark of the Kindred stack, and it's no longer their max health like it was before. It has, rather than a 0.2 total attack damage, has a 0.8 bonus attack damage. So rather than, it's rewarding you for building AD rather than relying on base AD and then building whatever items you want. The base damage is down later on, but that attack damage ratio is pretty high. The missile speed's a lot faster, and it can critically strike enemies below 15% health for 50% bonus damage, but that threshold increases by 1% for every crit chance you have. So if you have 100% crit chance, which isn't overly going to be efficient, you will automatically crit them if they're below 65% health, so they don't have to be missing very much health. Also, the Wolf's damage now is magic damage rather than physical, so a little bit of hybrid there. And Wolf's attacks deal an additional 1.5% of the target's current health as damage, plus 0.5% per mark of the Kindred stack. So you still have your percentage health shred if your W is active. Also, it's no longer a self-cast. You can self-cast it still, but you can also cast at 500 range from your self to make the center there. So a little bit more helpful there. For if you want to place it over a wall rather than having to place it on yourself and then kind of be running away from it rather than running into it. And then the Malzahar changes, I'm not really going to go over at all. I'll give you the TLDR that I got out of it. The Void Swarm's a little bit, like, a lot weaker. There's a lot less damage and power in his Voidlings, and to compensate, they buffed all of his spells and damage. And his R now has a base beam damage plus a big AP ratio on it, just flat damage. And the Null Zone percentage health damage is now lower. So you're not going to shred, like, shit tons of health off your target, but it will be a lot more bursty when you use it on a squishy target. That's like the TLDR. The reason I'm giving you TLDR is this is what they changed on the minions. You can do all this stuff, and then there's this, and then there's this, and we can go through this, and yeah, we're just not going to go over all that. I went through all of it, and it was painful. There's just too many things to remember there. Malzahar is... Just talking about Malzahar's movement speed on his Voidlings is like more than your average champion change on a patch. So if you want to, obviously by all means, if you want to go and look at it, you can go and look at it yourself or look for other resources here, but I don't want to be talking about the 3 reworks for like half an hour. Ari, her W ability power per wisp is down, and the max ratio versus the same target is down from 0.64 to 0.48. So you basically don't have to aim or do anything where you don't just ult in and keep hitting them with the W. No skill play is a little bit less rewarding. The Charm's ability power ratio has gone up, however, and the Spirit Rush has gone down. So basically it's rewarding you for hitting your shit rather than just pressing all of your buttons that auto-target. Which I agree with. I like that. Caitlyn no longer stacks headshot stacks with Runin's Hurricane Bolts. That doesn't necessarily mean that Runin's Hurricane is weak now. She still likes the AoE wave clear, but it gives you the option to be able to shiv if you want, because you're not going to be missing out on that huge power. Also, her base attack speed is down, but level 1 bonus attack speed is up, so her attack speed at level 1 is the same. It's kind of confusing, but the main thing is that the Runin's Hurricane no longer stacks the bolts. 3 tanky champions here got some buffs based on the Sunfire that I was always talking about and really hating the change where it's more for wave clear rather than dueling. I liked it for dueling, and they nerfed the shit out of that portion of it, so it made me sad. Mundo, his E has gone up 5 damage at any level. It's really not that impressive or important. If it was 5 damage per level, maybe, or that might be a little too strong, but 5 damage is, I don't know. I think the Sunfire lost 14 damage per level, which was a lot stronger depending on how fast you could get it, so 5 damage here is not the most. Attack damage growth stat has gone up by 0.5 as well, so you'll have an extra 9 AD at level 18, and you can kind of do the math for wherever you are in level, how much extra AD you'll have. I don't think that really makes up for how the Sunfire was nerfed, but it's a buff, so there's that. Lee Sin has an easier time ward jumping with high latency. You can buffer it. Lucian, just a mana cost nerf on his Q, is now 20 more mana at higher levels, so it's not just going to be like... This might kind of promote him into getting a Trinity Force in some scenarios, maybe. We'll see. Malphite's armor ratio on his E has gone up by 0.1, so that's actually pretty substantial, to be honest. Imagine like you're getting later on in the game as Malphite, you have like 400 armor. Your E is now going to do 40 more damage every time you use your E. It's to kind of make up for the Sunfire buff, or nerf, sorry. Maokai, a lot of changes here. Basically, the sapling's damage is less based on your AP, and the movement speed is based on Maokai's speed rather than level. Sapling brush damage is rather than 200% on 100% on detonation, and 2 ticks for 50% each. It's just 67% every detonation and each tick. So it's still the same. It's just everyone is going to do the same. And the sapling brush duration, kind of cool here. Rather than being 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 based on the level of your E, it's 30 at any level plus 2.5% of Maokai's bonus health. So I think that's kind of a cool way to balance it. It's based on his bonus health rather than like a level in something. So it's kind of promoting Maokai from just building like cheesy support Maokai type lot of AP magic pen burst people when they walk into a bush, which I thought it was frustrating to play against for one, but it also didn't really fit the style that you're expecting with Maokai. So they're making him kind of more back towards being like a tankier sustain dude. And his sap magic passive is the cooldown on it goes down faster. So rather than being 1915, it's 1611. So you'll get the reduced cooldown a lot faster. The base healing is down, but the percentage healing based on his maximum health is up. So once again, promoting him to build health. I like those changes. I didn't like the way that he's being played lately, to be honest. If you see me play Renekton, I've only played a couple games since they changed like to the input buffering and stuff on him to make it easier to play and kind of make it more usable. It honestly made it feel a lot worse for me on Renekton. Oftentimes I'd be accidentally double dashing just because you'd push dash more than once to get the first dash off, then it would input buffer the second one even though you didn't mean it to. Some of the stuff with his time and animation canceling and whatnot felt really clunky. I didn't really look into it. But apparently there was some issues. All the changes from last patch and the patch before that have been reverted. So anything they changed there, if you got used to it, now you got to get used to it how it was again before. Personally, I like it more the way it was before, so we'll see what ends up sticking with it. But I feel like this is a lot better, and I'm excited to play Renekton. It was honestly like I just didn't feel like playing Renekton because it was frustrating. Like you'd be going through muscle memory stuff and you'd be getting screwed up. Out of all of the tanks that got buffed because of the Sunfire, I think the Sion ones are by far the biggest buff, which is nice. Before it was just kind of base damage on his shield went up, which I was like, meh, not that powerful, not that important. The cooldown, though, on his shield went down by flat 2 from 13 to 11, which is quite a substantial buff, almost 20% CDR if you have no CDR on it. And the shield scaling now starts off 2% higher and goes up to 12% rather than 10. So it's 2% at any level higher on a lower cooldown. So you're more durable out of it. But the fact that you can also cast it more often means you can pop it more often, and it does percentage health damage as well on the shield. So it actually does quite a bit of damage, and now that you can use it more often, you'll get that damage off more often. So it's a durability buff, but it's also a damage buff. I by far think this was the strongest of all of the Sunfire Cape user compensations. So that's nice because I like that champion. Where are we here? We are on Syndra. The area of effect on her W is lower, which is nice. Syndra nerfs are great. Hate getting outplayed by that R button. Yasuo, pretty big nerf here. The stack duration on his Q is 4 seconds less. It's almost cut right in half from 10 to 6. So once he stacks it, he has far less time to use it and hold on to those stacks. It's a lot more punishing for him because he'll have to be in combat and getting those stacks or maintaining those stacks a lot more often than once every 10 seconds. Zach's indicator is, rather than 3/4 second, it's 1 second before he lands, so a little bit more of a reaction threshold. And there was a nerf to his base damage on his Q because of the percentage health damage that was added. Then apparently some Zaya and Urkan stuff, how they have the special voice lines between themselves. When you were warding, it would play the voice line for the enemy team through the fog of war, so it was actually like letting them know where you were. So that's kind of, it'll still play it for your team, but not for the enemy team now. The Abyssal Scepter got a name change and a new picture. Banshee's Veil is 300 gold more, but it also gives you 15 more magic resistance, so I think that that's a buff, honestly. You get more magic resist, more slot efficiency out of that. 45 magic resist versus 60. 60 feels a lot more helpful. So that's actually quite a huge buff for anyone that would want to build that. Blade of the Rune King just straight got nerfed, 3% lifesteal. It's really strong. That 3% lifesteal, I'd still want to build it, so you can kind of tell. If you see that buff, or see a nerf there, and you still think, yeah, I'm going to build it in every situation that I would have anyway, then you can kind of say, oh yeah, it just had extra stats that it probably was too strong with. Guardian Angel, new icon, everything else is the same on it. Ninja Tabby finally got nerfed 2% from 12 to 8. 12 to 10. I don't think 10% is low enough. I think 8% would have felt better. I'll still be building them pretty much every game, to be honest.
Talisman of Ascension and Eye of the Oasis have gone down 25 whopping gold, so good thing there. Scoreboard minion kill tracking no longer tracks pretty much any spawnable minion. It still gives you gold, but it doesn't pad the shit out of your CS, so if you're laning against like a Heimer, you're not going to have an extra like 40 or 50 CS type thing by the end of the game. So no longer stat padding there. What else is important here? There will be 10 bans pretty soon here in draft. Basically what it is rather than going through I haven't tested it, so this is just what I kind of get out of it. There's going to be 10 bans. Everyone's going to get their own ban. It's not going to show the enemy team who you banned and vice versa. So you all put out your bans at the same time, and if, say, I ban Lulu and the enemy team bans Lulu, then one of the bans that just ends up kind of being wasted. There's not necessarily going to be 10 champions banned every game. It's just going to be each person in the game gets the ban on champion of their choosing. And then if there's any duplicates, I mean, in the odd case that everyone banned the same champion on each team, then there's only going to be 5 bans rather than 10. And there's a chance that there can be less bans because there's an option to do no ban as well. So that should also speed up champ select really fast. By quite a bit, actually. It'll kind of skip ban phase down to like 1 countdown rather than a possible of 6 countdowns. But I haven't seen it in action, so like I said, I'm not sure the exact details of it. But I do think that's a better change. And just some other like kind of change things. Some league client update type things. So I'm not really gonna go over that. I honestly haven't read that myself. And then just some more other stuff. And then there's a bunch of bug fixes here. I'm not going to go over the bug fixes today because I am kind of in a hurry here. I had to end my stream earlier to get to bed. I got some stuff that I have to be up a lot earlier for today. But I wanted to try and get this out, and we got through it in a reasonable amount of time, still over 20 minutes. I was hoping it'd be faster. But anyway, guys, I'd recommend that if you do want to go and take a look at some of the reworks, there was, I mean, the Maokai one was quite big changes and quite a lot of reading there, but nothing compared to the Malzahar. Having to read about him and the minions type thing and kind of put it all into effect. The Kindred changes, the Rek'Sai changes. Quite a few huge heaps of changes this patch, so it might be good to kind of go and look at that, and if you see them in a game, maybe like open this up and like refer to it, like, because there's quite a lot of changes, honestly. But anyway, guys, hopefully found it helpful. Thank you for watching. Social media is in the description as usual. If there's anything that you enjoyed or didn't enjoy or like to see changed or anything that you want to comment on, you can put it in the comments below. I do read them, although I don't always respond to them. And yeah, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this. I haven't really been putting out any thing on my YouTube channel other than these patch note videos. I don't know, hopefully soon-ish I'll be less busy and be able to like start putting out more stuff onto the YouTube channel. I don't know for sure, no real ETA on that, but I'll still keep trying to keep up with these, so sub if you want to see these videos, and then more stuff in the future eventually once I do get time. I'm not abandoning doing that other stuff. I'm just kind of have it on a little bit of a temporary hold right now while I kind of get less busy. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Take it easy.